Join our knowledgeable hosts as they dive into the captivating universe of comic books, movies, TV shows, and pop culture. Get ready for vibrant discussions and a shared enthusiasm for all things superhero and beyond. A comic podcast straight from the panels. This is Beyond the Capes.
All right, everyone, welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Cape podcast. With us today, we have Jairi and Lyle. You might have seen their work with Konkret Comics. We've had Jairi to talk about Deja Vu, and now we got the counterpart, Watchman. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, man. Thank you. We appreciate the opportunity to come back and, talk some comics with you, man.
That's right. You guys got a big issue coming out with that crossover conflict. Now, Jairi, I know we had you on the show. We talked about Deja Vu. Lyle, it's time to. What can you tell our listeners? Kind of the background of Watchmen.
All right, so the Watchmen was made around. I want to say 2019. I got with him in 2019, but the background really came from the show Arrow on the CW from back when it appeared in 2012. So I kind of wanted something like street and gritty, So in 2019, I decided to make Watchmen, and I just took a bunch of my favorite characters. So Wolverine, Captain America, Daredevil, and Nightwing. Kind of took them, smashed them all into one person. Since I like vigilante, so I decided to just make like an enhanced vigilante character. Obviously based in a fictional Chicago. So that's kind of how the Watchmen came about.
Yeah. And as Jairi was saying, you guys have been kind of making comics, or at least knew each other, because you kind of got him started in on everything and getting this process up and running for a good while.
Yeah, so I was already, before I met Jairi, I was already making them, so I made it back in, so like I said, I started in 2019, I signed on with Konkret in 2020. That's when the production process, went live. So after 2020, the book was done in 2020, but my official book didn't come out until 2020, the summer of 2021. That's when my official book came out, and then that was in the summer. And then I started working at the job that Jairi was actually a manager at, like 2 months after my Kickstarter. So after the book came out, and then one of the managers at the job, they bought like a bunch of my books because we was at orientation. I was like, "Oh, tell us a fun fact." I'm like, "I don't know. I make comics." And they was like, "Oh, you make comics." So I told them I made comics. They asked for the link or whatever. I gave them the link. Then next thing you know, I come into work probably like a week or something later, and then it's like a bunch of managers in the building just had my comics in their hand, and then they just kept coming. "Oh, they gave me your book." I'm like, "Who?" And then they're just like, "Oh yeah, this manager." I'm like, "Oh, all right." So like everyone had my book. Then that's when Jairi approached me. I already knew Jairi at the job, obviously, but then that's when he approached me. He was like, "Oh yeah, I see you had a comic book." He was like, he's a writer and everything, and he was like, "Oh, he's trying to make a book. So could I help him out? How to get started with the book?" So that's when I made the introduction from Jairi to Lonzo, the owner of Konkret Comics, and then that's kind of where Deja Vu with Konkret Comics, came about. Is it too windy? Because I'm sitting outside. Is it?
It's not too bad. Your normal Chicago weather.
I'll go. I didn't know if it was that too bad.
Chinese food has got a bunch of. Actually, these are like two of my favorite kinds of food.
Are you going in there? My bad. Okay, yeah. So after that, go downstairs real quick.
It's always an experience interviewing with Lyle.
The ghetto out here.
you get raw, uncut footage.
There we go.
This is real. This is real Watchmen, Chicago.
Yeah. Controlling the streets.
That's right.
But yeah, so oh my goodness. Glare. Let me just stand in the corner. Yeah, so okay, that's where it ends. Okay, I'm just gonna stand here. So yeah, that's where it ends. That's where Watchmen basically met Deja Vu in Harbor Freight Warehouse.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it brings us to present day. We got the Kickstarter out, but we have the kind of the first official crossover. Now, is this more of Deja Vu and Watchmen, or is this a Deja Vu versus Watchmen scenario?
This is a little bit
a
of
mixture
both,
of both.
Yeah, definitely a mixture of both. I think
Yeah,
I think that's where a lot of the hype. I think that's where a lot of the hype from the collab comes in. All the fans of Concrete, they've been asking for some type of interaction, some type of crossover with the characters. We obviously built Concrete as a connected comic book universe, so with that connectivity comes an expectation that they would eventually cross paths, or some of the heroes would eventually cross paths at some point. By both of our stories being set in that that urban territory, that fictionalized Chicago, it was a match made in heaven for them to cross paths eventually. And I remember going back to that first conversation that Lyle was just referencing. After we made the first contact with Lonzo and everything like that, the first thing he said was, "Oh, maybe we'll get to crossover one day." And so it's been in the making now. It's been in the making for what, 3 years now?
3 years? Yeah.
Yeah.
It only makes sense because they're both urban. We already was next to each other, so it was like, why not? Like, I've had the conversation about making a crossover before, where like I know Lonzo has mentioned, oh, that's like, oh yeah, but I get it, but it's like, what? It's gonna be Superman and Batman again, like. But it's like not disrespecting Lonzo. I'm just saying it's like act like in a Watchmen. In my head, it's like, when are they gonna
Yeah, I think that's and I think that's what makes this collab so like hand in glove, is that these two characters are very, very different, but they kind of operate on the same level.
Yeah.
So you get to see that dichotomy between the two, across 42 pages. Whereas if you mash up a Watchman and a Acolyte, or a Deja Vu and an Acolyte too soon, the balance is thrown off at that point, right? So this was a perfect way to kind of kick off that connectivity in the Concrete universe.
Yeah, it just really makes sense more for us to meet first, really. So it's just like, I feel like to meet Acolyte, like like it has to be like, honestly, it would have to be more than just Watchmen and Acolyte in that collab. It'd have to be like let's say if you take the TV show DC, Flash and Arrow, when they like, this is basically like that first crossover ever from the CW, the Flash and Green Arrow, how it was just basically regular, like it was just them two, when he got Flash with like the light beam dude who was changing his personality and whatnot.
Yeah.
It was probably regular. This is like that first crossover. And then obviously later on, the rest of them, I guess, can be added to Watchmen and Deja Vu crossovers, because you have to have like a world, but you would have to have like a world event. You feel me? Like a catastrophe or whatever. Like a big disaster. Like basically like aliens will probably have to come down in a Watchmen and Deja Vu, like, we need a little bit of backup.
Right.
And that's when Acolyte, he'll act like they're no demon. They could fly in, like, let's handle these people, like, because we can't fly. I mean, Deja Vu, I think he got a hover bike.
Yeah, that hover bike is nice.
The Watchmen ain't gonna have no hover. The most thing that I would get the Watchmen is like boots to like get a little jetpack, while in the air. But I'm cool with him being on the ground. He's good. He's good on the ground. Ain't no one can touch Watchmen on the ground. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, your guys' Kickstarter, I mean, it lit off as soon as you guys put the word out. This could definitely lead to, if you guys don't call it like the Concrete Crisis, spelled with like 2 Ks after this, and do like the whole like Avengers. That's a missed opportunity.
Yeah, definitely a missed opportunity.
Now, what was it like? I mean, obviously, I think both of your guys' Kickstarters have done pretty on track for doing pretty well. But you guys are like what, 200% funded now?
Over 200%.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah, we as of right now we're sitting at 260%.
well, we're close to 300.
Yeah, and that just
We
speaks
should hit
to
300. I feel like we're gonna hit 300 by 12 days.
Yeah.
yeah, for sure. I mean, and that just speaks to the community, to the backing, to the branding of Concrete. So shout out to the house that they built, that allows us to launch with such confidence, and really gives us a platform to work with some of the greatest artists and greatest colorists and best letterman out there, letterer out there.
Better.
Yeah. So it really gives us a leg up to just keep pumping out quality content.
Yeah. How easy was it for you guys to team up and write this? I mean, kind of Lyle bringing you into this, and you guys kind of both bringing your characters up through Concrete.
Mm-hmm.
You guys both have a solid friendship, kind of a similar background. I mean, everything's kind of the same. So was it easy then to write this to lay this out?
Actually, yes. It went pretty fast. I ain't gonna lie. It
Yeah.
wasn't really that hard. I feel like people will probably think like, oh, collabing has to be hard. Because I know, okay, like some people would ask us, like, I've been in like different like Discord pages or whatever. Then we, oh, Watchmen collab coming or whatever. Then they're like, oh, who's gonna write it? I'm like, what do you mean? Like, like we're both
Yes.
gonna write. Why would we just have one person write when I know Watchmen? He
Mm-hmm.
knows Deja Vu. I can't write a Deja Vu book. I probably can write a Deja Vu book, but it won't really be a Deja Vu book. He'll probably end up literally sounding like the Watchmen if I write it. Not gonna lie. Like, he could probably write Watchmen, but it won't really be Watchmen
Mm-hmm.
because like Deja Vu takes parts literally from his life. Watchmen takes parts from my life. So neither one of us could
Yeah.
really just, oh, let me write this whole collab out. No, it's called a collab for a reason. We both wrote it. He brought up the pages or whatever, the pages app or whatever. He basically, he set the background. So I was like, okay. So I had to find a way to fit, Watchmen in there. So we just really bounced ideas literally off the top. Like, oh, what villain? I'm like, I got a villain coming in issue 3. Might as well bring him over into the collab. So that's the villain that you'll see in issue. Yeah, in this collab is the villain that gets introduced in issue 3. So even though the collab is out, first, but issue 3 actually takes place before the collab.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say one of the things that helped kind of smooth over the writing process of the collab is that a lot of what Lyle mentioned he was inspired by to even get into comics is falls right in line with, my favorites, right? So his favorite character is Nightwing, mine is Batman, right? So similar backgrounds, similar styles. He mentioned Arrow. Arrow was undoubtedly the one show that got me back into the comic book universe, comic book movies, all of that. So we liked a lot of the same stuff, growing up. A lot of the similar things inspired us. So when it came time to write this, like we both had a very good understanding of how these street tier characters should interact or how they should cross paths. And like you said, it was really like a low ego type of thing going into it. We do have private Discord chats, for Concrete followers and things like that. And yeah, it was some chatter out there around like, oh, whose pen is better, this and that. And it's like
I remember that chat.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
you
like
were in there? Oh.
you're gonna get these 42 pages and you're gonna enjoy every single one of them because you get the best of each character, right? And you get to see growth and development. That was one of the things that was important. The way that they start the interaction is not how they finish their interaction, and I think that's important for both characters.
And that's why we only saw short pages because people think that the book is only about one thing, just like the picture in Jari's background. But they just have to get the book, finish the rest and see how it all like
Mm-hmm.
plays out. Like people now they just ask like, oh, who wins? I'm like, just read
And
the book.
and another thing to look at it, another way to look at it too is anytime you think of a versus, you immediately think of a physical altercation, right?
Yeah.
But there's more layers to each one of these characters in terms of how they view the world, how they view their place in the world, and what kind of impact they can make on other people as well. So all the readers out there, they should go into it thinking, okay, yeah, who can win in a fight, but also how do these two their ideas and their mindsets change or clash, and who can win out there as well.
Definitely. Now you guys confirm that obviously this is canon for your stories because the villain from this is going to be in Watchmen issue 3. Was that a tough decision, or because Marvel and DC always do annuals that have nothing to do with the storyline, and I'm not even gonna waste my time reading them because they have nothing to do. They're not gonna carry over. Did you guys make that decision kind of consciously to just keep everything canon without doing like one shots where someone dies but they didn't really die because it's the one shot, not the main storyline?
Yeah, we did. I think we started off. Yeah, we started off with the idea of it being a pure one shot, that it taking place in, I don't want to call it Elseworlds, but it taking place in the vacuum basically. But I mean, we tottered a lot on it. It almost ended up being issue 4 of Deja Vu and issue 4 of Watchmen.
3. No, it was gonna be 3 of Watchmen, 4 of Deja Vu, because you already had your 3.
Yeah, because I had my 3. So this 2, because we originally wrote it as 2 parts, and that's what you see here in my background. We sliced that into two pieces. So that 42 pages, the first book was 20 pages, the second was 22, and we had thought about the idea of making it Deja Vu issue 4 and Watchmen issue 3. But as we got deeper and deeper into it, we didn't want to confuse readers. I mean, comic booking in and of itself is complicated enough. Once you start getting into different issue numbers and arcs and things like that. So we didn't want to confuse the readers there, but we wanted to make sure that it had real ramifications on the series, and that the outcomes actually matter, the tangible outcomes.
Definitely. Lyle, I don't know if you had anything to add to that, or
I don't know. Like I was saying, it was supposed to be my 3, which was another reason for the delay, because I was like, okay, this is gonna be 3. But then it was like, no, we're just gonna change it and make it like basically issue 1 of Deja Vu and Watchmen. We're just gonna make it issue 1. But that's why we use that villain, because then we're like, okay, we need a villain. I'm like, well, I got villains that I definitely need to introduce. So I told him about my villain, which is the guy, well, I think people know about the villain at this point because of other podcasts. Well, yeah, B- TV said his name already, so whatever. So Hardball was my character. So Hardball was my villain. So I was like, we could use, because that's when Hardball was supposed to be introduced basically in issue 3 the whole time. So that's why it was going to be issue 3. So we just introduced him, and I'm like, oh, well, I'll just have him show up there. I guess the real issue 3 of Watchmen wasn't going to be finished, basically. So he shows up basically twice so far.
Yeah, definitely. And I think Hardball is definitely one of the coolest villains really I've seen in all the comics. Super original.
And the funny thing, what I found about, so what's his name? B-, right? B?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
B- TV. In his video, in his review of the book, he said that these are like regular. He said like the regular villains or whatever, something like the regular bad guy or whatever. And I'm just sitting, I'm like, man, Hardball not regular.
Yeah, he doesn't. Yeah, but that's. But
he probably said it was not spoiler. How they like stupid, but it's like, well, he's not really regular, but I understand what it was doing. But like when people read it, I feel like they'll see that he's not regular. And then when people read issue 3 of Watchmen, they'll really see like, okay, he's not really regular. It's just kind of more toned down in the collab. I feel like how he is, but yeah, he's a special character. He's like a character that's probably gonna just be reoccurring in the Watchmen world, just like Flashlight is like Rogues.
Yeah,
how they like always came back for some reason.
Yeah. So for everyone reading that is familiar with both of your characters, I know you guys said that they're really different, which they are, because Deja Vu, despite what happened to him and his backstory, he's trying to piece together kind of a better tomorrow. He's trying to stay hopeful by cleaning up the streets. Where Watchman's in the thick of it. He understands sometimes like what needs to be done to clean up whatever he has to. So you have that contrasting kind of personality. So you could see where like the conflict and like the approach to how to get something done is going to come in. But they are also the same because for the most part, they do want the same goal. I mean, it's the same end goal. I don't know if that was, it seemed like it kind of made that easy to do this crossover because you can showcase both sides of the coin, but you're still going to get to the same purchase.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I would say Deja Vu is like, he's more of a holistic thinker, right? Like he looks at that big, broader picture, whereas Watchmen is, like is a means to an end, right? In order to, like, the shortest distance is in a straight line. So if there's a bad guy directly in front of him, I'm going through that bad guy to get to the end game. Whereas Deja Vu is more like, okay, holistically speaking, what's the most important thing in this particular situation? Like if I have to, go around to get, to the end goal, that's what I'll do.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's what's going to make this crossover so good, because it still has like that Superman Batman vibe. Because I mean, that was the exact same, well, not the exact same, but it's a similar view where Superman, he's not really bogged down. I mean, he had parents, he had this loving, growing up, or Batman didn't, and again, they still want the same thing. They were just willing to do different things to get there. So I think that's definitely good. I think a lot of people can see the iconic storyline that shows up, in all your guys' work, especially this.
Yep. Yeah, because for most of Deja Vu's life, like he's been burdened with responsibility to be different or to be better than his peers and et cetera, et cetera. So he's always been challenged to be a bit more selfless in terms of, he may want to catch the bad guy, but he understands that he has to sacrifice his needs sometimes to protect the broader audience.
Definitely.
Yeah. The Watchman, he already grew up rough, so he really doesn't care. He has a goal. He's gonna achieve that goal by any means necessary, basically.
Results driven.
And I feel like that's where the verses comes in. One guy comes to someone's town, and then he's like, "No, it's gonna be done. It's gonna be done his way. You're the guest. It's like you can't just come and take over. Like this not your house."
Exactly.
And then you don't want to get
and that was important for us too. Like when we first started building the bones of it, we obviously had to set the stage. I think we felt like it was a no-brainer that it would be Deja Vu coming to Warren City, because we felt like that would tell a much more dynamic story.
Because why would the Watchmen come to that sunny place?
Exactly. Now, after you guys got this first crossover done, did it already get like the stories kind of in your head? Like, all right, well, maybe like when we're both at issue 6, let's revisit this crossover again.
Yeah, so that's another factor that kind of played into how the naming convention for the book. That's why it's Deja Vu, X Watchman, or depending on which copy you pick up, it could be Watchmen X Deja Vu, issue 1, right? Because that allows us space to allow our characters to continue to grow individually, and then if we pick it back up and do an issue 2, now it's a new set of circumstances where they've each gone through X amount of issues, and now they're meeting again.
Because the Watchman might need to go downtown.
He might need to come downtown.
It's a bad guy that's in Deja Vu sitting out that the Watchman trying to catch, or the Watchman trying to find someone that runs, Yeah.
He might have a court date. He might need to get a boot off his car.
Yeah, a little help.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the Deja Vu, I mean, he's got all that, fancy technology. Maybe he just, hooks the Watchman up with some gear.
You never know.
Yeah, you never know. You never know on that one.
Exactly. So I guess the other thing, I know this was easy writing this book. Like I said, as we discussed before, similar styles, similar storytelling. Was there any difficulty though trying to get this to mesh?
The only difficult thing was naming it.
So we
That was
yeah,
like the
it
only
is.
difficult part in the project. Honestly, we didn't have a name for the long time. We was like, what are we gonna call it? I'm like, at this point, just Watchmen and Deja Vu Part One.
We did have a tough time naming it for sure. Um, I would say what could have been difficult was made easy just by the fact that like we supported each other over the past 2 to 3 years, right? Um, because even how we bounced the script back and forth, like there were a few pages where I wrote some of Watchmen's dialogue, right? And just to as an
Just a
idea
throw it out.
generation. Yeah, and then he came back and he reworded 95, 100% of it, right? If there was any ego involved or anything like that could have created a clash. But we both understood like no, like I respect what he do. He respect what I've done. So now it's like okay, I kick this over to him. He kicks it back. Now I'm looking like okay, well let me alter Deja Vu's dialogue to play into this a little bit more, or take the story a different route, whatever the case may be. So I think there was a ton of opportunity for it to go bad or be much more challenging. But when you go into it with a like-minded person and you want the same outcome, and it's somebody that has done some high quality work already, it makes it easier.
And that goes back to what you're saying. Like, I think you said, like, was it difficult, like writing that? It wasn't. It was just like I said, he can't really write for Watchmen. I can't write for Deja Vu, but he can put
Mhm.
fillers out, and then I can read it and be like, I see what you're trying to say, but the Watchmen says it
Yeah.
like this. So
Yeah.
I was like, okay, let me redo it. Then if I did see a Deja Vu line, I'm like, all right. I think he should be like this, and he'll just reword it to what like we just
Mhm.
flip it to our style, basically. Like this is how the storyline goes. Yeah.
Yeah. Now,
I
obviously,
mean,
you
it's
guys
a
are.
one thing in there though that it's a one thing I never even told Jerry this. It's a
Oh,
one, but I just let it go. I'm like, I'll let him have it. It's a one dialogue in the book. I'll probably tell him after, but it's one dialogue in the book, and it's with the villain. And the people who are watching it, they can just guess which one of like the bad guys, which dialogue that it is. I'm just like, at this point, yeah, okay. Uh,
I think.
to me, it's like, I don't think it sounds like that, but I was like, you know what?
Mhm.
I'll let it go. I just
You know
let
what?
that one
And as he says this, I think I know the exact
the
panel,
exact line.
the
He
exact
has to
panel,
know the
the
line. There's no
exact
way he
bubble.
doesn't know the panel. He
Look,
knows the panel.
I'm about to screenshot it right now because I'm almost for certain I know know which one it is. We've
And I
never
was just
had this
like,
conversation.
I'm
We've
like,
never had
interesting.
this conversation before, but as he's saying it, I'm like, I think I know the one.
I'm just like, I'll leave it alone. I'll let it go this
but
time.
but that also points to the fact that again, like it was, we were building out the bones of it. And I'll throw some words in there, just to kind of take the story in a certain direction. And this might be the only one that he didn't change. So that's probably why it jumps out at me as
It was
that's the one.
definitely the other one. I'm just like, because in my head, okay, I read, and then it's like, because the way I write, I'm pretty sure it's the same way he writes. I write it as this is supposed to be, live action. Just like when I did my first book and I sent it to my artist, he was like, "Oh, he's like, it's really easy to draw it because he like can picture it easily, and he's like, it's like a movie." I was like, "That's how it is." Because I didn't want to do comics. I was always gonna try to write, TV shows and movies. So that's the way I write the comics. So you'll see it visually in like a script that I write. So when he wrote it, I'm reading it. I'm like, then that part comes, and I'm just like, and then the voice in my head is just, I don't know why it irritated me. Like the voice, the way he wrote it, I could picture it in live action and hearing that voice, and it just irritated me. I'm like, ugh. I just left it alone. I was like, you know what? He got it. So we'll let it fly. He
It's
got it.
just
He got it.
that one little bubble.
It's
That
literally
one bubble.
one. I'm like, I ain't gonna change it.
All right. Well, everyone be on the lookout for
I feel
that.
like
See if
it's a
you can
part.
guess
Yeah,
it.
if you're on the lookout for that one panel.
That one panel.
Now,
Everyone be on the lookout.
now everybody's gonna submit like 48 different panels
Yep.
and they're all gonna be wrong. It was like, ah, shit, we missed the
I
mark
feel
on
like
that.
to the people watching, if you can, if you can pick the panel, if you can pick the panel, you can get issue 3 of the Watchmen for free. If you can pick the
There you
panel,
go.
you'll get a signed free copy of
You're gonna
issue
get a
3.
submission of how many panels do we got? We got what, 42 pages, average of 6 panels per page. Oh, your inbox is gonna be flooded with just
I
every
promise you,
panel.
they're all gonna. And here's the thing:
Just
I'm not giving out a free issue because they're all gonna be wrong. I promise you, they're all gonna be wrong.
but
There's literally just
but
one panel. I doubt they picked that one panel.
there's a little tidbit that you had touched on there is like the approach to writing. That was another thing that kind of helped us out. Um, I take a cinematic approach to all my writing, all my books. I kind of look at it as if I'm directing a movie, so the panels are cut, the beats, the page turns are seen, ends, and everything like that. So the fact that we both have that similar style in terms of how we view the pages of the book, and how we would translate that to live action or animation, I think that helps a lot too with the pacing of the story.
Yeah.
Definitely. Now with working with this book, and you obviously you can know each other's kind of working process just because you guys have been working, pretty closely for a while. Do you find yourselves maybe like thinking like you might pick up like, oh, I didn't know he wrote like this, or I didn't know he laid his panels down like this, something that maybe you didn't think about, but now working in collab, you kind of have like a better understanding or viewpoint from that other person?
Well, for
Yeah, I
me,
think. Go ahead.
oh, you know,
No, I was gonna say, for me, one of the things that I picked up on was like the banter during like combat scenes, or the dialogue during combat scenes. That was one of the things that I was like, oh, okay, that makes a ton of sense. Like the way he would have Watchmen kind of interact with whoever his opponent was during that time. Whereas I think that was one of the more challenging things for me. Even when I sent Lyle the very first draft, it was just a bunch of sound effects because
yeah.
in my head, because again, I'm looking at
That's
it
one thing I
in
changed because he literally just
yeah.
had his sound effect. I'm like, nah.
No, yeah, it has to. There needs to be more. But for me, it was again looking at it in that more cinematic lens, where if you watch like if you watch like the fight scene one of my favorite fight scenes of all time is Winter Soldier versus Captain America, right when they're on the bridge. Like
That's my favorite movie.
there's not a lot of dialogue there, but the action is just so captivating. Like all of that is there. So for me, picking up on how Lau adds that component was kind of key for me.
Yeah, and then
Definitely.
it's like even when he says that part, it's like yeah, in those scenes, like yeah, they don't talk, during the fight, but it's like when they stop physically fighting and they're just staring at each other, they talk. But it's
Hmm.
like if you put that in a book, it just look weird, like they just standing there. So I
Yeah.
like nah. In the middle of the fight, and they gonna talk trash because it's like anything. It's like okay, it's like in sports when you facing out, they talking trash in sports as they're playing. So that's just how right. And then I guess it's how like the difference. I guess in like where you come from or where you grew up, it's like people talk. From where I'm at, we always talk trash to each other. Like I
Yeah.
talk trash to kids, so it's like we're always talking. So I put that in my writing. So
Hmm.
most of the Watchmen series, yeah. Any person that the Watchmen faces, he's gonna talk trash back and forth. And then it's like with the bad guy, they get annoyed by it, but the Watchmen doesn't care. So
Definitely. And did you do you find yourself picking up any deja vu tactics or something like style that you kind of want to bring to Watchmen now?
no, because he doesn't talk enough trash. But the only it's no I've read the books. His books are fine. Like I've read even before we did the collab. Like I already read his book. I see his style. It just wouldn't fit my style. But probably the only thing that I would take it would probably be how he just does his scenes. That's probably it. Like just how he does his scenes. I probably change that up in mine. It's like basically like the scene structure. I feel like because my writing I do like if I don't know what you would call it, freeform or whatever. Like it's just out there. It makes sense.
Yeah.
But like, at first look, it looked like it won't make sense, and then y'all get to the end, you be like, oh, it's fine. Yeah. People be trying to say it's unstructured. I'm like, it's not unstructured. That's how it's supposed to be written. Like,
Yeah, and
if you saw it in a movie, it would literally make sense. If you saw it in like a TV show movie, you just be like, oh, that's great. Yeah, but yeah.
yeah, I think that too. I think the writing style could have been a point of contention. If you talk to Lonzo, he'll say that my script writing, book building style is very unorthodox.
Yeah.
So to get Lau to trust me on that one, and just because of the way my process is, like disruption to that is very disruptive. So for Lau to just kind of give a little bit more on that front would definitely help the project move forward.
It's like, man, basically what he means is he draws everything out first. Let's put it that way. And he'll draw it
Yeah,
out first, and I'm just like, no, let's not. Let's write. But I was like, it's a collab, so I'll let him. But he could draw it out, and I was like, I'll just match it to the panels, I guess, at this point. So that's how he works.
Organized chaos.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
It's like me and Lonzo don't understand it. Lonzo will literally call me like, bro, get your boy. I'm like, what? Like in the process of making Deja Vu 1, he literally called me almost every day. He's like, bro, get your boy. I'm like, what do you do this time? He's like, he did all the art, but he says the script's not done. I'm like, I can't change how he writes. That's just how he writes. Because how we go about it is, we have the script done first. They check the script, they edit the script, and then we start the art. This man wrote the whole book out, and I'm just like, how do you know what they're saying?
Hey, you're gonna figure it out.
You're gonna figure it out. You figure it out as you go. So I know what they're saying. So as long as the artist draws exactly what I asked him to draw, it won't be any problem.
Yeah, it's just awkward, but it was really the same way. Like the art was done before we finished the whole dialogue. So I'm just like, cool. Yeah, it was done. So hey, we just I just worked with him in his style on that one. We just went the Deja Vu route, basically.
There you go.
It worked out, so it's fine.
Yeah, I'll say. I mean, you go on your Kickstarter, you see the covers and the pages you guys have put up. I mean, everything still looks very crisp and put together from what we have seen.
Yeah.
So I mean, it all definitely came together. Now, the one thing I've always wondered if people, and this is probably only for our Chicago listeners and being all in the Midwest here, have you guys ever put in like little dialogues or anything from Chicago everyday life that you are surprised that no one has pointed out, or some things that you've hidden like in the comic?
Yeah, I would say so.
Like, I mean, I have a building in there. People probably don't even know where the building's at, but it's a building in there that's literally in Chicago. So
yeah, I would say so. I mean, I got like highway references in issue 2. The way I built that out is like where there's a scene in issue 2 where it's kind of like that 1994, overpass or whatever you want to call it. Some people look at my cover 1 and the skyline doesn't quite jump out at you, but for my issue 1, like he's standing on a beam and you got the stone container. I call it the stone container building. I don't know. I forgot what it's called now, but the diamond shaped building that's in the skyline. I used to go on during like bring your kid to work day. They used to do those back in the day. I think they stopped. I don't know when they stopped them. Maybe 15 years ago. But like I've been in that diamond office and everything like that. So like when I first started building out Deja Vu City and everything like that, I took real experiences and put it in there. I actually got another cover. I might use it as a cover that I've never put up that has like the Puerto Rican flag. It's 2 streets. It escapes me right now. I know it's near like Western and Division, but it's 2 streets. They got the flags hanging over the streets. I got a dope pinup done of that I haven't used yet. So maybe a cover, maybe a pinup. Not sure, but yeah, we got a lot of that baked into it.
Yeah, and like most of my pinups, you can tell it's Chicago in the background.
Yeah.
Most of my references are like literally just a Chicago background.
Well, Watchmen has so many jokes. I always wondered if we were going to see a lot of the banter, like involving the loop never being done, or what you put on a hot dog, or how you cut your pizza, because that'll start a riot.
So when basically, I like to balance. So like someone like I remember people used to get mad at me, or like mad at the book, and they'll be like, oh, so like okay, so it's like the whole the power set issue that irritates me. Some people when they're doing like a verses online, they want to add like other characters, just from different indie comic people or whatever. They're like, oh, this character versus life, and then it's like I'll see comments like, oh, he's just a regular Joe. I'm like, well, obviously you didn't read it one, and then they're like, oh, an issue. They're like, it's wrong. Well, and then when I tell them like his abilities, then they were like, well, I didn't see that an issue. Well, I'm like, you don't. I'm like, okay, when you see someone for the first time, do you expect them to go all out? Why would I just start with him like maybe lifting a building or something on someone? Like, why would he do that? Like, no, he's not gonna start off like that. The building it has to build. You have to build the character up. He's not just gonna start off by taking someone, ripping them in half. It's not that kind of story. Like if I had another character and I was like, okay, he's that type of person, he might rip somebody in half in page 1, panel 1.
No,
But the Watchmen isn't ripping someone in half in page 1. He can rip someone in half.
He's just waiting.
Now I'm gonna hey, hold on. So I'm probably gonna regret asking this question, right? Because I know my answer. But to get back to Ryan's point for a second, what does the Watchmen put on his hot? What does Watchmen put on his hot dogs?
Oh, this is gonna be bad.
what?
Funny thing is, the Watchmen is vegan, so you wouldn't be eating it.
Oh, he's vegan. Oh, okay. What a cop out. So I am a.
Wait, what are you expecting, man? He puts on okay, here's a weird thing. What the Watchmen puts on the product is what I put on it, and my thing is probably not Chicago thing. It's just how I like. I don't like. Okay, honestly, I don't like mustard. I can't help that. So it's just like what I would put on my hot dog. I don't even put ketchup on it. So if I'm going like Maxwell's and I say, "Oh, give me a Polish or something," they ask what you want on there. It's either what barbecue sauce or mild sauce. It's what's on there, and then I'll have
grilled
like
mustard.
Yeah, grilled. I'll have grilled onions.
Grilled onions.
Barbecue sauce, relish. Maybe a pickle.
Relish.
Yeah, relish and that's how it is.
So if I don't have access to mild sauce, ketchup is a substitute. And I know I'm probably gonna catch some heat for that. But I remember I went into Jimmy's one day and I didn't see the signs. But for those of you who've been to Jimmy's, you know that there are signs up that says we don't have ketchup, don't ask. And like I knew where I was, but I didn't quite it didn't trigger, right? Because if I go to Portillo's or something like that, I'm like, yeah, I don't like mustard, throw some ketchup on there. So I'm up there, I'm like, yeah, give me the onions, give me the ketchup. And he looked at me, I'm like, what? And I look around, the guy behind me, he turned his face up. I'm like, oh, here it goes. Here it goes. But yeah, man, that's one of those things, man. I'm not a mustard guy. I didn't catch that. I didn't get that Chicago trait.
No, I mean, I ain't gonna lie. I'm not a mustard. With me, I won't go out my way to be like add mustard on that. But if I'm ordering I ain't gonna lie, if I'm ordering the hot dog and I'm lazy, here's nothing, and I'm also lazy. So unless they ask, what do you want on it? I'm not gonna say, add it, because it's like if they ask me, I'm gonna tell them what to put on. But if you go to, there's some places you go to, they just say what style you want. Yep. They be like, and I'm like, give me the deluxe or whatever. And whatever's on there, I'll get it. I'll just take it. So if it's mustard on there, I'll eat it. But then when I'm eating it, I'm like,
I'm taking the pepper. I'm taking the pepper.
But it's not like
just scooping it right on.
Exactly. But it's not like I hate mustard. I'm cool. I just don't prefer mustard. I just don't. But I'll eat it on the hot dog every now and then. But it's like I usually go to places where they literally ask you. Places where you make your own. Like you make your own. You tell them what you want on there.
There it is, right?
That's how the Watchmen does. He'll go to the places where he tells them. He'll be like relish, bell pepper, maybe the pepper on there.
That's a Beyond the Cape podcast exclusive right there, man.
That's right.
Watchmen
Deja Vu. Hey, everyone.
Now Bell, he his hot dog with a bun. That's it. You just use a
That's
straight
it.
bun.
He look like that.
Running
He look like
down.
that kind of guy though. He
You
look like
don't
that
need
kind
no
of guy.
combo. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Deja Vu eats his hot dog with a fork and knife.
hey, just keeping the hands ready to fight crime.
That's what I'm saying, man. Can't get those gloves sticky.
Yeah,
Exactly.
he gotta keep it clean. The Watchman keeps his dirt. It's okay.
All right. So we got the Kickstarter out. I think we were just talking 260% funded, almost 300%. So we have 12 days left.
12
Yes.
days.
Yep. So it expires August 31st at midnight.
And what do we have for the reward tiers?
So so for the reward tiers, we start off the first level is the digital, right? So we got the Crucial Conflict digital. So that's the PDF version of 42 pages. We got some good add-ons as well. You can add on a digital explosion. Now, typically when we do the concrete digital explosions, it's like the first issue of various books from the concrete universe. We put a spin on that. This time, the digital explosion includes my issues 1 through 3, and also Watchmen issue 1 and 2. So it's really focused on these two characters. And then once you move past that tier, you have the individual covers. So you got cover A and cover B. Cover A is Watchmen centered, and cover B has Deja Vu centered. So whichever is more aesthetically pleasing to your eyes, you can go in and pick that one out. And then we always do a dope variant cover. So this one was also designed by Lau. So we have our Crucial Conflict variant. We got that tier coming in the chrome. So that's the holographic cover. And then we got a newcomer starter pack. So we saw this firsthand at Chicago Fan Expo this past week. For those that aren't all that familiar with the two characters here, you get issue 1 of Deja Vu, issue 1 of the Watchmen, and then you get the crossover. And we call that the newcomer starter pack. So if you want to dive right into the universe, that's a good place to jump in. Even though the collab is canon and it takes place later on in the story, the way we wrote it, it's definitely plug and play, pick up and play. You can start at the collab and then work your way back to the 1, 2, and 3. And then from there it jumps up a little bit. You got the complete collection. So for those of you that want to dive in and gather everything that's published to date, and that's the variant cover. That's my issue 1, 2, and 3. That's Watchmen issue 1 and 2. And then you get 2 dope posters along with that. And then you got the all chromed out, which is everything we've ever done in the variant edition. All chrome covers there.
Yeah, and I'm always impressed at the very, very, very end of your rewards tier, almost every concrete campaign, is that last one to be drawn in as a character. I don't know if it was for an upcoming project or the build your own.
So the build with concrete. Yeah, so we always put the tier in build with concrete. So a lot of people, we get questioned all the time at conventions and through Instagram, everything like that. People are saying, "Hey, how did you get inspired by this? How did you come up with this? How did you do this?" So what that tier is, it's at the $1,200 level. But what that is it first of all, it includes the books, of course, but it also includes some consulting with some of the creators on the brand, Lonzo, and essentially we'll help you create your original story, and we'll help you produce a 3-page mini issue. So that's not you paying to be inserted into one of our books. That's us giving you some level of guidance on how to create your own, and you get a 3-page mini issue.
I thought it was them adding themselves. Okay, I know in one of my cases, I think issue. Was it at the end of issue 1?
Issue 2.
And I know I think the guy hit us up about it, but it's like I already had issue 2 out. No, it was at the end of issue 2. Oh yeah, I didn't do it. Not on purpose. It's just like we forgot. I hit them up and like, issue 4, I got you.
So maybe that's why we stopped doing it that way, because you goofed it up.
We don't remember, because then by the time it happened, it's already a wrap.
So that build with concrete. I think I want to say we definitely I know we've had a backer at that tier before, and that person was able again to go through the consulting round and put together their 3-page short.
Awesome. Well, for everyone listening and watching the video on YouTube, we're going to have the links down below in the comments. You still got time to get in on this Kickstarter. We got 12 days left. Let's push this project up. Thank you guys for coming on and discussing this project. We're always excited to see what Watchmen Deja Vu bring to the scene next. And we'll see who wins this conflict. I know the Concrete chat has been pretty lit up about who's going to win.
Oh yeah.
So I'm curious to see how this all works out. Thank you guys for coming on. Everyone listening, hope you had fun. Have a good night.
Thank you.